Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Obitadi here. On today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you guys how to sew this button down gown that has a belt at the back for snatching, a little collar and a puff sleeve. If that is what you're here for, make sure you stick to the end. Let's get started with the tutorial. So here is the fabric I'm working with this African Ankara, and I have about two and a half yards here. You can work with 3 yards for a better result, but if you're my size and you like the exact way mine came out, you can actually go ahead to use just 2.5 yards. And then what I have here is 1 yard on fold, which is 18 inches, right? So what I have here is 1 yard, and the length is the total length of the Ankara, which is about 44 inches. Now we're going to start cutting or marking our measurement. Now from the center front, I'm going to go in by 3 inches, which is supposed to serve as my neck width, and I'll come down by 1.5 inches for the neck depth for the back. So we are starting with the back, and then we are going to use the back to cut the front. Now after marking that, I'm going to go ahead and mark my shoulder. That's my shoulder width divided by 2, and I have, it's usually 7.5, but I had to make it 8 inches because this is a shirt gown. You have to, if you can possibly make it to be a little bit free, you should do that. Now around that shoulder, I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'm going to connect that shoulder slope to the neck width. Now after doing that, I'm going to determine my armhole line, and I'm going to be coming down from the shoulder slope by 8 inches. My armhole divided, or my bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 is about 7 point something. I had to add or make it 8 inches. Remember, it is not a fitted gown, so just want to make it a little bit free for you. Then I'm going to also mark my shoulder measurement around that armhole line to have a straight line. Okay, and that is now our armhole line. Okay, now this extension here is our chest line. So around that point, I'm going to measure my bust divided by 4, and I marked that there. I've not added any allowance or ease yet. Now I'll go over to that armhole line, and I'm going to divide it into 2 so that I'll get the midpoint. And after doing that, this is the back. I'll just go ahead and connect from that midpoint to my bust circumference. All right, I would also connect my back neckline. Now I'm going to go over to my waistline. So my shoulder to my waistline is about 18, 17, 18, depending on what I'm working with. I even use 19 sometimes, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be making use of 17 inches. So I'm going to mark 17. You can even use, it depends on your waist and your measurement, so you can work with what you have. And then that's my waistline, and on my waistline, I'm going to divide my waist by 4, and that is what I'm going to mark there. And now you can add as much allowance or ease that you want. So for me, I don't want it to be too big. All right, I want it to be free but not so free. So I went ahead to add 2 inches after my measurement. 1 inch is for my sewing, and the other 1 inch is for the ease that I added. Okay, so 1 inch is for sewing allowance and 1 inch is for ease. So on the bust point, I will also go ahead and mark that 2 inches allowance, and I'll go ahead and connect that, and that is what we have right now. So we don't need a hip measurement or hip line for this. What I'm just going to do is just connect from this to the end of your fabric. Now if you're on a bigger side, or you want your flay to come out more bigger than mine, so you're going to make use of more than 2 yeah, sorry, you're going to make use of more than 1 yard for this back. Probably use 1.5. All right, so you have a bigger flay. All right, so that is it. So for me, I'm going to connect from the waistline to the end of the fabric, and that is how big my flay, or my A line rather, came out. So this is like an A line. It is not like flay, but it looks like flay, but let's just call it an A line dress. Okay, so this is what I have so far, and I'll just go ahead and try to get that to look straight, and then I'll cut my fabric on my gown. All right, so this is what we have so far, and you can see it's very easy and simple to make. Okay, so now this is what we have. I'm going to just go ahead and cut out this part, and after cutting it, I'm going to bring the front piece, and then we'll work on that as well. After cutting, this is what I have, and I went ahead to place the back to the front. So my fabric for the front is bigger than the back. Okay, so now from the center front I marked 3 inches, so that's going to serve as our center back, sorry, our center front, please. So I use the back as a guide. That's going to be um our button folding and also our button overlap. I hope that makes sense. Just the same way you cut your regular shirt. Now, for the front neckline, I came down more by 1.5. That's 1.5 from the back. Remember, the back is 1.5 as well. So if you're adding 1.5 plus 1.5, that's 3 inches. If you can come down up to 4 inches, I think that would be better for this style. I didn't come up to 4 inches, but if you want to get exactly what is on the thumbnail, you can use 4 inches, but this is also fine. All right, so I went ahead to cut that and also cut the size of the gown using the back. All right, you can see that the back is there, so I'm just going to trace every other thing that I have on it. So the difference between the front and the back is that the front has a button allowance, okay, which is 3 inches. Make sure you put 3 inches, okay, and then the only difference is just that button and then the armhole for the front. So we are going to divide that our armhole line into two again, so we will get where the midpoint is, and I will go in by 1/2 inch, and then I will just connect, curve that out, because if the front armhole is usually deeper than the back, so you don't want to ignore that. So that is just the difference between the front and the back. The back has a more deeper armhole and a button overlap, so that is just the difference. Now I'm going to go ahead and slit open that button overlap, and then I'm going to show you guys how to fold it and also iron it. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to just remove the back, sorry, the back, yes, from the front, and remember we added 3 inches, so we're going to be folding 2 inches, remaining 1 inch, and that 1 inch is going to be for the overlapping. So you're going to fold by 1 inch first, and then fold again by another 1 inch, and then iron and also stitch on it. Let your hand be straight, please. You can as well go ahead and add stay to it before you fold it, but my fabric is already thick, so I don't want that place to be too thick. Now we'll go ahead and measure my armhole. So we're going to cut our sleeve. Now I've folded my fabric in 4, and I'm just going to be making use of the length of about 7 inches. So the length I'll be using for my sleeve is I think it should be about 5.5 to 6 inches. You can use up to 6 inches, but what I'll be marking here is 7, including allowance for folding. So I went ahead to connect that into a straight line. Now I would advise you make your sleeve even bigger so that you have more puff. Okay, you have more puff for your sleeve. So I'll go ahead and mark my chest line, sorry, my armhole line, which is about 8 inches. That is our bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. You can, after marking that, you can also go ahead and mark additional 1 inch, which is the ease we added, or additional 2 inches, or 1 inch, which is the ease we added on the gown. Then you add extra 2 inches. So what I did here was I added my 8 inches, then I added extra 2 inches, which is to make that puff to be big or to come out well. Okay, mine still came out well, but if you want your puff to be more exaggerated or to be fuller, I would advise you add, instead of 2 inches, after the 8 inches you can add 3 inches more. Yeah, after you're going to measure it to see that if you have more excess, so that is going to tell me how much puff your sleeve is going to be, and then the hem of the sleeve is just going to be that way, because you're obviously going to use elastic to puff it. So I'm just trying to bring down my cap sleeve a little bit so I can have more excess to pleat. All right, because I didn't have so much excess for mine. So for yours, make sure that your sleeve is longer or is bigger, so that at the end of the day you have so much puff to use. Okay, unless you like the way mine came out. If you like mine, then you can just make use of what I did here. So this is my sleeve ready for the 2 sleeves. They are now ready. All right, I'm just going to notch the center to be sure that that is where my center for the sleeve is. Now I've gone ahead to sew the shirt, the button shirt, that's the center front. I'm gonna ahead to fold it and also stitch. I also went ahead to iron it, like you can see, and I also joined the shoulders for the front and the back. So this is what we have so far, right? So now the next thing we are going to be doing is to get our neck circumference. So I'm going to be measuring what I have round the neckline. After doing that, we're just going to go ahead and cut out our collar for this. Now this collar that was used on this style was supposed to be a tiny collar. I didn't really notice that until after I was done sewing. I had to change that, and the only thing is that the collar, or my collar on this particular one, is bigger. That's the one I'm showing you guys here. So please, what you're just going to do is the same way you're doing this, just make your collar to be smaller, all right, to look more like piping. All right, so it's a small collar. Let's just say even half an inch, so you can make it more like a piping, like piping the neckline. You can as well do it the same way, like this. Let your collar just be little. So mine later turned out to be 0.75, so you can do your 0.75 or half inch. All right, so what I marked here is my collar, the collar circumference I had, and then I added extra 1.5 inch for joining on both sides. So it's always important to have excess. So I'm going to cut that out, and then what I have here is about 1.5 inches for the collar. And yeah, I'm not deliberating so much on this because I did later change the collar from 1.5 to 0.75 width, okay, because it later turned out to be big when I realized that the collar on the style was just a tiny collar. All right, so that's just it. But you can use this method, make your collar smaller, and just use this method. It's still the same thing, and it will turn out exactly how it should. So I'm going to take the notch of my collar here, and then you can see that I folded some parts inside. Then I left about half an inch for sewing. Then the other one will flip it over to turn it. I believe you know how to make a collar, and if you don't know how to do that, let me know in the comment section. Then I will make a tutorial on that. Now for my gown, I went ahead to divide my gown into two so that I can get a notch at the back as well. And I'm going to be matching the right side of the collar to the wrong side of the dress. Please watch closely because I know this clothes is the back and the front is almost alike, so you cannot really differentiate. But take note of where my shoulder is, the joining. So I'm joining, I am matching the right side of my collar to the wrong side of my dress, and you're going to sew it all around till you get to the end of this so you get to the end of the neckline. And after that, you're going to flip that your collar the other way and top stitch, just close it up. I don't know if that makes sense. You close it up and then you flip it to the other side and top stitch. Like I said, this is not a tutorial on how to attach your collar, but if you want me to do that, let me know in the comment section and I will do that for you guys. So I'm just going to go over it again, match up this center back, that's the notch part, and then sew round, then top stitch later. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that. And yeah, now before I go to that table, sorry, before I go to the machine to do that, I'll go ahead and match my front pieces, okay, because we need to attach a band or a belt. Yes, a belt to this. So we are going to mark out where the belt is so that we can sew that as well once we go to sewing machine. Now I'm going to measure from my shoulder to my waistline. Remember my waistline is 17 inches. Yes, so but for this belt I'll be working with 16 inches because I want it to be a little bit higher so it can snatch more. So I'll go ahead and notch that part so that we'll know that that is where our band is supposed to be. Good. You can also notch the back side. Yes, but for me this is enough for me to get where to place it. Now this is the band that I cut two, and yeah, I cut two of it, and it's long enough to go around my waist. So this is I'm going to place it, and then you see that I'm placing it, the joining is on the middle or is facing upward, so by the time you flip it, it's going to be facing the back. Okay, so it's important to take note of that, unless your belt you didn't sew it this way. So I'm going to place that like so, and then I'll match up the back to the front. All right, as you can see what I'm doing there, that's how it's going to be. And I'm going to sew the side by 1 inch allowance that we gave, so you can sew yours by the allowance you kept for your sewing. I'll also go ahead and do the same thing for the other side of the front. I will match the belt to the front, the place we matched, and then I'll sew it. Now I've gone ahead to do that, and let's work on the sleeve. Now my sleeve, I went ahead to indicate the front and the back because they look exactly alike, and I'll go ahead and fold the hemline by 1 inch, and after folding that I'll also put my elastic band and then close the side or the center. Now I've gone ahead to do the joining like you can see on the screen. So this is my gown so far, and I also attached my collar. Like you can see, the collar is now smaller. Like I said, I later made it 0.75. That's the width of my collar instead of 1.5. So it's important you do that, do yours that, do you, it is important to do yours like that. Sorry, you can do half inch to 0.75. You don't want it to be up to 1 inch, please. So now I've gone ahead to also do my sleeve. You can see I added the elastic band, and this is what I have. I also closed it up and it's looking really nice. So what we are going to be doing next is to be attaching this to our gown, and it's pretty simple to do, so don't worry, I'm going to show you guys what to do. So I'm going to bring my gown and I'll get the right side. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing now is the center joining, that's the joining on the shoulder. I'm going to be matching it up with the notched part of my sleeve. Remember, that's the center. So I'm going to flip this to the back so we can match the joining on the armhole of the sleeve to the armhole of the dress. Okay, so that's just very easy to do. And now we're going to match that up. I'll flip that to the back side so we understand better. Okay, so after joining the center, that's the shoulder and the notched part of the sleeve, I'm going to match up the armhole of the sleeve, that's the joining on the sleeve, and the armhole of the dress, and you're going to pin that down, and then you're going to sew from that point. You're sewing from that joining on the armhole side. All right, you're not joining from the front, that's the shoulder side. You're not joining from the shoulder side, you're joining from the armhole side, and you're going to sew until you get to the up side, and then you will see that you have some excesses there. Yes, you're going to pleat that around the shoulder. You're going to pleat that around the center, that's the notched part. All right, make sure you're pleating it around the notched part. That's why it's going to be on the shoulder, exactly on the shoulder. So you're going to do that same thing for the other side. You will start again from the down, that's the armhole, and then you sew all the way to the shoulder side, and then you also pleat any excess you have there. Okay, very good. I hope you understand. We're also going to do the same thing for the other side of the sleeve. Match up the center of your sleeve to the shoulder of your fabric or of your gown, and use a pin to pin it down. Then you also flip your sleeve back to the back side. Okay, and then match up your armhole on the dress to the joining of the sleeve. Sorry, you join the sleeve to the armhole of the dress, and then you're going to sew from that point to the up, and then any excess you have there, you're just going to go ahead and pleat it. Now after doing that, I'm also going to go ahead and fold my gown length, and yes, I'll show you guys next. Now I've gone ahead to sew my sleeve. You can see how beautiful. I love the sleeve. It's so chic and nice. You can see what I have there. I also went ahead to fold the hem of my gown, as you see. Now the last thing we are going to be doing before this tutorial ends is that, remember that this shirt has an open, like a v-neck on the, it has like a v neckline. All right, so what we are going to be doing is from the shoulder, from the tip of the neck, sorry, I'm going to be coming down by 8 inches. You can come down by 9 depending on how revealing you want it to be. So I don't want mine to be so revealing so I can still wear the church. At this point, this V part does not have button. The button starts directly from where the V point stops and down to where your slit is going to start from. So what I'm going to be doing is, after marking the 8 inches point, I'm going to flip my collar side. Just watch what I'm doing here. I'm going to flip it inside. Okay, you're seeing what I'm doing. I'm flipping inside. Maybe let's just use the place I stitch, that's the 1 inch button overlap and stitch, as a guide. You're flipping that inside. Okay, you can even push it more by half an inch more and make make it look like in a slanted way, in a V point way. I don't know how to explain this, but if you watch closely what I'm doing, you will notice what I'm doing. So you're going to push that inside and make the other side to look slanted, in the sense that towards the end everything is still lays flat. Now watch what I'm doing here. Now I'm flipping this inside, and you can see that towards the marked point it is still coming out straight. So it's giving us V. If you want your own V to even be more, you can push it in more. Now you can do this thing when you're cutting. You can also do this when you've gotten to the stage. So this is me doing it at the stage, and then you will see what we have. We'll have that little V point at that, neckline. I'm going to go ahead and stitch mine. You can also use hemming to do yours. So for me, I stitched it, as you can see, and you can see that it's looking nice and seamless. Everything looks beautiful, and I love how this dress came out looking. Now the next thing we are going to be doing is to mark our button. Okay, you can see how this neckline looks now. It looks way better, and it's really beautiful. You can use hemming to hem yours if you don't want to stitch it. So the next thing I will do now is to mark my button point. Okay, so starting from that point, I'm going to mark let's just mark where our button is going to stop. That's where our slit is going to start from. So from my shoulder to where my slit is going to be starting from, I marked 34. You can mark 35 if you don't want it to be so revealing. Okay, so I marked 34 inches there, and I'm going to take note of that point. Now I'm also going to divide my the button space, okay, for my button. So starting from that point that our V point stops at, you can see where I marked there. So that's where the first button is going to be, and from there I will come down by 4 inches. So I'm using the spacing for my buttons are going to be 4 inches. So you can mark 3 inches, you can even make 4.5, but I think 4 inches is the standard, so it doesn't come out too big. So I'm going to be marking 4 inches till I get to the end. Okay, so that is where our button spaces is going to be. Yes, so after that we are basically done for today's tutorial. And if you watch this point and you're yet to subscribe, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like, drop a comment in the comment section if you have any question, and if you have any tutorial to drop, please join my community and you can drop your style request so we can create a tutorial for that. Thank you so much for joining. See you guys in my next tutorial.